everybody, welcome to another Craft Break Live. My name is Emma Panuski, and in celebration of Mother's Day, I am going to be making with you all some really sweet Mother's Day cards using our new FolkArt watercolor gels. It is a fairly new paint line. It has a wide variety of really bright, fun watercolor inspired colors. And it's similar to traditional watercolors, but they are in gel form. They come in this sweet little 2-ounce bottle. So that's what we're going to be using today. As you can see, I created these two Mother's Day inspired cards, one for the dog mom in your life and one for the human mom in your life. So I'm going to walk you guys through some really great techniques. Hopefully you'll learn a thing or two, and if you get really excited about our new watercolor gels, then you can find them on plaidonline.com. So before we get too into our craft break, I do want to mention that Caitlin is in the studio with us, so if you have any questions or comments throughout our live stream, she's going to be monitoring all of those and relaying them back to me.
Yep.
Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So I'll bring these in the forefront so we can see what we're doing today. Okay, so let's start with our dog card for the dog mom in your life. So this watercolor gels paint works really well on porous surfaces like wood, fabric, watercolor paper obviously, poster board, those really porous surfaces like that. So I made this little step out. All I did is I printed a photo of our dogs that we're going to be painting, and I used some Mod Podge matte and I adhered it to a piece of watercolor paper, and then I waited for it to dry, and so now we can apply our gels to this card. There's a lot of really great techniques to use our watercolor gels for. One of my favorite techniques to use is to colorize photos. So if you want to print maybe a vacation photo or a family photo, a pet photo like the one we're going to be doing today, if you want to colorize it to black and white and then print it out, then you can actually use the watercolor gels to give it a whole new life, which I think is really exciting and fun. So I'm going to show you guys how the watercolor gels work. So I'm going to take a small flat brush, dip it into some clean tap water, and then while my brush is really wet from dipping it in the water, I'm going to pick up a little bit of my watercolor gels, and you can see we're kind of adding more water and turning our consistency into a really beautiful gel-like consistency. So I'm going to take this, a little bit of our watered down paint, and I'm just going to brush it onto my photo where I want the blue to be. So I'm going to make the ocean blue. And similar to traditional watercolors, the more water that you add to the gels paint, you're going to have a lighter opacity in your application. Getting in all those little grooves, all of the ocean that we can see in our photo. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to rinse my brush, and I'll show you guys just how well we get that colorized photo look. Okay, so now I'm going to dip my brush into our watercolor gels clementine color, this really pretty soft orange. Now I'm going to start painting in the top of our sand. painting it down. And without rinsing my brush, I'm going to go ahead and just dip my brush in the water, but I'm not trying to remove any of the paint. I'm going to take some of our Meyer Lemon Yellow, and I'm going to brush that onto the bottom part of our sand. So now, again, without rinsing my brush, I'm just going to dip my brush in the water, tap some of the water off, ooh, and now I'm going to brush right where that orange meets that yellow, and you'll see we get a really cool blended effect. Just blending that orange and that yellow together with our water. Like that. Okay, so now I'm really going to rinse my brush. And we're going to apply some of our light pink color to one of our dogs here. Just smoothing our paint out as we go. So quick and easy. We're going to do the same thing with our periwinkle color. Okay, we're almost done, you guys. It's really quick and easy to make a type of card like this. And of course, this is inspired by the pet mom in your life, but you can do it with any human mom. You can do it for the grandma in your life, the aunt in your life, the mother figure in your life. So lots of different ways to use this technique with your very own photos. Okay, so this part is really fun. We're gonna start to make this really watercolor effect background. Okay, so I'm going to dip my water again into mermaid tail now, which is this really pretty cool green. And I'm just going to kind of tap, tap, tap all in that white space at the top. Now I'm going to apply more water to our paint. We're really trying to water it down now. And I'm going to take any type of pencil, marker, paintbrush you have, and I'm going to tap my paintbrush over whatever paint, marker, pencil you have to create a splattered effect. Okay. So now I'm going to take my blow dryer and blow dry this until it's pretty dry. Not quite all the way dry, but pretty dry. Okay, so as you can see, we blow dried our little splatter effect here until it is mostly dry. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of try to pool some of my water onto my palette here so that we're really watering down our paint now, and I'm going to take some of our already watered down gels and mix that into our little pool of water here. And I'm going to create just some very loose painterly kind of blobs. Like that. Now we're going to take some of our more opaque paint, and that's the paint that we didn't water down quite as much, and create some blobs with that opacity. So now what we're kind of trying to do is we're trying to create puddles of our watered down paint onto our card, because we're going to use our blow dryer to manipulate these puddles of paint. So we want quite a bit of water on our card. Okay, so with our puddles of our watered down watercolor gels, we create that really painterly, really noticeable watercolor effect. So last thing we're going to do is I'm going to water down my paint again, and we're going to go over the entire white space with just a really soft green wash. So really, really watered down watercolor gels. Okay, like that. So now if you want to go back and apply more splatter with like a thicker opacity of the watercolor gels, you can feel free to do that. You can see in our finished card here, I did the technique that I just walked you guys through, but then I also used our waterfall color, that really beautiful cool blue. Once that was all dry, I took a separate piece of watercolor paper and I did a wash of our hot pink color here. Once that was dry, I wrote a little message for my fur mom, and then I went ahead and applied it to my card with some Mod Podge matte. Okay, so that's our first card. Let's get into our second card now. Okay, so I'm going to take my small flat brush again. I'm going to dip it into my mermaid tail, water it down a little bit, and I'm going to create these green strokes that is going to be this kind of stems of our flowers here. So that's one. We got two. Okay, so this is our darker green color. I'm going to go ahead and dip my brush into our lighter green that we have in our palette. And apply some water to that. but I'm not going to rinse my brush because since these colors are so similar and they work really well together, I'm not really worried about them blending together and creating a color that I don't like. Okay, now I'm going to go back to our mermaid tail, that dark, almost turquoisey green. You can kind of overlap your colors too. That looks nice. And whenever you feel that your brush is kind of starting to drag, I just like to apply a little bit more water to my brush and some paint if you feel like you need it. Okay, so once your green is applied, I'm going to totally rinse my brush and then go in with our hot pink. So again, I'm applying some water to it. And I'm going to create kind of like a soft triangle with the tip of the triangle pointing towards the top of our card. Okay, I'm going to go in for my light pink now without rinsing my brush. Kind of the same thing as the two greens. I don't mind if these two colors blend together a little bit. I actually think it'll help us, so I'm not rinsing in between. But now I'm going to go ahead and rinse. I go into my waterfall again. And I think one of the things that makes this card look so unique and so handmade but still put together is because all of our shapes are different. They have different heights, different widths, and I think that really adds to the finished look of our card. Rinse a little bit and then go into our periwinkle. Okay, lastly I'm going to rinse my brush and then I'm going to go ahead and blow dry our card. Okay, and the good thing about our watercolor gels is that it does dry pretty quickly since we're adding so much water into our paint that it's going to evaporate pretty quickly. So the dry time is pretty quick, which is nice. So I'm going to take one of our new Apple Barrel multi-surface paint pens. They come in great packs. There's two different packs. We have a brights pack and then a neon pack. There are black markers in each pack. So I'm going to take one of my Apple Barrel paint pens. I'm going to start with the O. We're going to be writing mom, and O is at the center of our word, so I know that lives at the center of the card. And I'm going to go out from there. Just like that. Now I'm going to draw some stems. Some little leaves coming from the stems, just really loose. Like that. And now we're going to paint our little blooms. So just painting some really loose petals like that. And with that, you have a really simple, quick, and easy Mother's Day card just in time for Mother's Day. So you guys, I hope that you were inspired by some of the techniques that we did today. If you're interested in picking up some of our FolkArt watercolor gels or our Apple Barrel multi-surface paint pens, you can find both of those items on plaidonline.com, as well as some of the projects that we made with those products that you can kind of browse and get some inspiration from. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you next